stories that are hard to believe are pretty common. This is one of them. I mean, most of the story is very ordinary, just kind of looks like a series of coincidences. And that part I can believe. Looks kind of like synchronicity. Carl Jung said, synchronicity is some things happen because coincidence, and sometimes they happen because they need to. That the universe works that way. And I believe that. I think, the universe bends. But did this go past synchronicity? And if so, did I miss something? And that's where it gets to the point that I don't know if I believe it. It happened to me. And I don't know if I believe it, what to believe. I know the rational explanations. But they don't quite satisfy me. Now, it starts as a very, very ordinary sort of story. September, I had finally got around to graduating from college that May. 25 years old, had absolutely no sense of purpose, no direction, no motivation. Some things had gone badly. I had not gotten over it. And I was just doing things because, you got to do something. And if I didn't do something, my parents were going to do something about it. So I took a job selling audio equipment for Sun TV in Columbus, Ohio. Back then, Sun TV was a big deal in Columbus. They had stores all over town, which meant nothing to me, but it was something to do. And they said that they were going to put me in their store on the southeast part of town, so I took an apartment close to that. Then they told me they were going to train me for 2 weeks in a store on the northwest of town. It's okay, it's a bit of an issue. And then my beat-up old Volkswagen Squareback got me moved into my apartment and quit. I mean, just totally, fatally, need a new engine, sort of quit. Wasn't worth the money if I had the money, and I didn't have money. So, called the company, and they arranged for somebody to, pick me up on their way to work at that store. And, we're kind of starting towards coincidences. I mean, the car quitting wasn't a surprise. The surprise was that it lasted that long. But I get to work for my first day, and the store manager says, "Hey, the audio manager's off today. There's nobody here to train you. Well, you better just go home and come back tomorrow." Yeah, easily said. So there I was, pretty much cross town, cross city, from my apartment, but I had all day. I had no money. Not really. I knew nothing about buses. It actually would have been real easy to take the buses to within a 5-minute walk of my apartment, but I was small town through and through and absolutely not city savvy. But, I had walked 10 to 20 miles more than once, sometimes from necessity, sometimes just from angst. And I started walking. I walked on down Lane Avenue, got to the Ohio State campus. I knew High Street a bit because I'd shopped at the used record stores more than once. Had no money to stop at them that day, so I kept going. And from there, I just would walk a little east, a little south, a little east, a little south, and figured eventually I would get to the southeastern part of the city and recognize enough to make it to my apartment. And by the time I was 2 or 3 blocks past High Street, I knew nothing about the neighborhood, never been in any of these. But I just kept walking. I ended up in an area that was partly residential, some small commercial buildings, the kind with an apartment up on the second floor. And I realized that I was standing right in front of a used record store I had never seen or heard of. It just had a little sign in the window. If I'd been across the street, I wouldn't have even known it was a used record store, but there I was. Still had no money, but I did want to get out of the sun a bit. And, well, when the universe drops an unexpected used record store and you like used records, you go in. They had a water fountain, so it seemed to be a really good choice. They actually had very few records. It was one little room of records with a few bins. But out of that few records, they actually had one that 4 years earlier, or not exactly 4 years earlier, but probably within a month of being 4 years, I had made myself a promise that if I ever stumbled across the record, I would buy it. And it was because, the song had been a hit, got a lot of airplay real briefly, and then just vanished from the airwaves, it seemed. And I liked it. Turned out my girlfriend at the time liked it. That's when, of course, I made the silent promise that I would buy it. Didn't mention it to her or anybody else. And, well, by that September, I graduated in May, so did she, and she married somebody else in June. So, the promise was pretty much defunct, but I'd made it to myself, which are the easiest ones to break and sometimes maybe the ones most important to keep. And here I was. All of these things had brought me standing right in front of this record that I shouldn't buy financially. But all of the things that had got me there said, well, you're being presented with an opportunity, and giving the universe the finger is usually a bad idea. I bought the record. I walked home. Nothing else happened. And, did I do the right thing? Well, nothing went wrong to say I didn't. Should I have maybe started a conversation with the owner? Was the record just kind of an extra nudge? Was the synchronicity part really what would have happened in that conversation? Did I come up one step short, which I have done way too often? And, well, maybe I would have started a conversation with the owner the next time I visited the store. Because I lived in Columbus for another 2 years, including, neighborhood that had to be pretty close to the store, within, say, half a mile or so. And I lived in Columbus again, for 3 years, a bit after that. And I looked for that record store. I looked for it more than once. I looked for it on foot, and I looked for it in the car. I drove around, far larger area than it could have been. And I did not find the store. I did not find a building that I could say the store had been in. And I couldn't even find an empty lot to say that this is where the building had been and gone. So the rational explanation is that I overlooked it. I was just completely in the wrong area, and because I didn't know the area. Rationally, I stumbled across a small record shop and bought a record and just screwed up and couldn't find it again. But the other possibility that I can't really eliminate is that the record store ceased to exist, disappeared, was there long enough for me to buy the record and gone? I can't disprove that. Now, of course, proving a negative is impossible. I understand that rationally. But it doesn't help when you know that the record I bought in this disappearing record store was pretty much the only big hit by the Adrisi brothers, and it was called Ghost Dancer. I bought Ghost Dancer in a record shop that may have vanished. Nah. I don't know if I want to believe it or want to disbelieve it. If the record shop disappeared, wow. But what do I do with that idea? It's a lot safer to figure I just screwed up and didn't find it. And I'll never be sure. I guess I don't think I will be. But Ghost Dancer in the Twilight Zone. Did I do a short dance in the Twilight Zone and never knew it? And what might I have done while I was there? I ain't never going to know the answer to any of that. And that is, not knowing is the hardest thing for me to live with, and I'm going to have to do it. The record's still here, or it was the last time I checked. It's going to be real freaky if that suddenly disappears, and I don't think I'm going to go look. Anyway, thanks for listening. Do with the story what you will. The universe bends. How much does it bend? So long.